All right. Dean, thanks so much for taking time to be with us today.
Yes,
Yeah, great.
we're
Absolutely.
so excited.
I'm excited too.
Yeah. Would you mind just sharing with us a little bit about what you do in the high school setting here in Columbia?
Yeah, so I work at Hickman High School. I teach math there. I've taught several different courses there over my time, but this year I teach geometry.
Geometry.
A lot
That's
of
awesome.
sophomores, but then, some of everyone, every grade.
Have you ever come across a math problem that you couldn't solve?
In the classroom, in front of my kids, no.
Okay. That's
Luckily. I try to prepare for that. But definitely in college, I saw those regularly.
That's terrifying. As a poor math student, I'm intimidated by your presence, but really thankful for you at the same time.
Well, we can work on that later if you want.
It's good. Good. Well, yeah, thanks so much for taking time to be with us today. We're really excited to just think about the Christian life and think about the Christian life from different perspectives. And we've talked before about the fact that it's easy for us, if all we have is our narrow perspective on the world, it does tend to be narrow and it tends to be shallow. And one of the great things that we realize about the church, about Christian community, is that we're given to each other to share life and to share perspective. And so with every conversation we can have a broader and deeper understanding of our lives, of who God is and what he's up to in the world. And so we're just so thankful that you can be a part of that with us today.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, thanks.
So we're curious, what were you like in high school?
Well, as a teacher, personally, I would be probably my least favorite student. I wasn't necessarily the most dedicated or motivated student. I was naturally smart enough to get by, and I was a little bit of a goofball, very much so. Like, wanted to be the class clown and have the attention on me instead of the lecture. So, I would say not great, but maybe fun for a couple students some of the time when they weren't annoyed.
Mm-hmm.
A good classmate to have, really, in a lot of ways. Can you tell us a little bit about, you have a unique perspective on school because you've been a high school student, but you're also an educator.
Yeah.
So you've kind of been able to be on both sides of the classroom. Why is high school an important thing for young people to be thoughtful about and to work hard within?
Well, I think that, high school is so much more than just, learning a couple of different types of content. There's a lot of information that you get in high school that, isn't going to be a part of your daily life. And I think that that's a common question that kids ask, when will I ever use this? And that's just looking at that individual piece of content. But then if they think a little bit broader, it's like, okay, what about the processes of learning and the growth that happens and just the communication, the ability to see other people interact? I think there's a lot more that high school offers to students than just, geometry, world history, art, different things like that. So for me personally, within the context of my class, I definitely want my students to get a lot more out of that. That's my goal. I want them to be growing, relationally with each other, maturing, capable of having relationships and interactions with people that they don't necessarily would want to spend time with outside of class.
That's really helpful to hear. So it sounds like you're saying even if a particular subject matter isn't appealing to a student, or if a particular assignment isn't really exciting, that's still an opportunity for them to be shaped into the person they're becoming. And that's really important.
Yeah, definitely. Almost more so than, in a class where it comes easy or they really enjoy it. When they are faced with that adversity, that's something like they don't like or aren't necessarily interested in, how do they respond? And, how do they keep their composure?
I wish I would have heard that in high school. That's good.
Yeah, that's a really neat way to serve students as a teacher. I think sometimes students don't see that as much in their teachers. So that's always really neat. I always loved when I could see that my teachers cared for me and wanted me to build those relationships within the classroom.
Yeah, absolutely.
And push me in that way. So you work at Hickman.
Yes.
So what would you say is unique about your school, maybe in comparison to other schools, or different challenges that Hickman might face, or different unique perspectives coming from Hickman?
Well, so Hickman's the only school I've ever taught at. And so it's easy for me to compare to the high school that I went to, which was very homogenous with what students looked like, how they dressed, what type of family they were coming from. There wasn't a lot of diversity, which Hickman is anything but. There's students from, a lot of different countries represented, different socioeconomic backgrounds. So a lot of different culture and interests there. And one of the coolest parts I think about Hickman is because they've been exposed to people that are just different than them in small ways for such a long time. They've, learned to, accept and become friends with, people they might not have in a different environment. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's really cool. Obviously, there's some challenges that come with that as well, just with, people not seeing eye to eye on a lot of different things because you're just being exposed to it. But I think it's a pretty safe environment to have those interactions in, which is really nice that the students can have that while they're still learning and growing mm-hmm. before they get out and have it on their own.
That's really neat. It sounds like the unique environment that the young people you're in would be especially unique given the fact that you're a Christian high school teacher. And so you've got that gospel lens going into all of life. And I know that there are certainly limitations or ways that you can't be explicit about the ways that you share your faith when you're in the classroom at school. But what's it like for you to appreciate those distinctive qualities of Hickman High School as a Christian teacher? Have you found that to be especially life-giving or maybe even uniquely challenging in and of itself, being a Christian teacher in that environment?
Well, I think, it can definitely be like a huge source of encouragement because, I can't force any belief onto a student. Not that they would necessarily be receptive if I tried. But, if students come to me with questions, it's not something that I try and hide that I'm a Christian. And so if students ask, that's a great opportunity for me to share. And I can engage in that conversation as much as they'll allow me to, or as much as they want me to. And so it's really neat, and that's led to some really cool conversations with students just about, what it is being a Christian, what challenges they face, and just, I think it is such a, deep part of my life, and I think a lot of students are really stepping into like their faith and making it their own and at a cool time in their faith. And so to get a sort of talk that through with them and talk about different challenges that each of us face in our different roles is pretty cool.
That's really neat that you can connect with them like that. That's great.
Yeah.
You said that you see students stepping up and kind of showing their faith or maybe having conversations about that. How have you seen students do that well in high school?
Well, I think it's like almost being a good citizen is part of it. Students are in a lot of different clubs and communities that have a Christian focus at Hickman. And I know all the schools in town have those various organizations that can meet up and, just talk about their faith, talk about their struggles, have some accountability. And then they can hold each other accountable within, the class to be better students and better friends to each other and sort of give life to a class as opposed to, take away from that. And not that that's always executed perfectly, but it's really cool to see, students making efforts, in that name.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like that's one of the scariest things of being a high school student and being a Christian. Like, how do I do this well? How do I not come off as like the know-it-all Christian or say something wrong?
Yeah.
I'm like, it takes so much courage to just also let that show through your actions and how you treat other people. I feel like it's so visible in those arenas. And it's a little less intimidating to do and be like, hey, let me tell you about Jesus, where it's like, I can show love and kindness to other people, and that's noticeable.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I was just going to say, I think it seems especially meaningful in places like your school dean, where there is a big exchange of ideas occurring on a regular basis, and even a significant reception of different ideas, that students are willing to listen to each other, and they're used to that sense of diversity. And the fact that Christian students can stand out, not to make themselves more popular or to make themselves more desirable friends, but they can stand out for the sake of God and for the sake of the gospel through the way that they treat other people or the way that they use their words. And so it seems like in that kind of a setting, just loving people well is in of itself a really significant way to be a Christian and to love other people with the good news of life in Jesus.
Yeah. And I think that hits on a really important aspect of being a Christian, just in general, but especially, in like that pressure cooker of culture type environment where you're in such close proximity to people with different views. Is you can't, win people over to Jesus by trying to have the loudest voice. But it's the students that listen the best, and hear out other ideas and other people's point of view that I think can build the deepest relationships and really make the best steps in that direction.
That's wonderful. That's really encouraging. No, really, that's great. That's cool. I sometimes fall into the trap of thinking that the best argument is the most effective way to reach somebody or to communicate with somebody. But it's been told to me once by somebody else that you can win an argument and lose a person. And there's a big difference between having the loudest voice, like you said, or thinking that you just sealed the deal because you were so persuasive, and actually loving somebody, which takes patience and time, and gosh, a lot of selflessness and humility. So
having that relational capital built with someone to have those deeper conversations.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah. So, if you could write the high school version of yourself a letter, what would you say? Or if not a letter, a video,
That would be...
The options are endless.
Probably a disappointing video for my past self to receive. Oh, that's what I become. So maybe we'll just stick to a letter, something that I can type up. But
you can conceal more in a letter, right? You can be a little more selective.
I think, I'd really want to say to myself, you can be yourself, really rest in those deepest relationships that you have. And I think there's a couple of my closest friends that I would really want to encourage myself to just invest in, open up to. I think the hardest part for me as a high schooler was trying to find my identity and my purpose and not feel like I had to be, this special person to everyone and had to be, adored by everyone. And so I think there was a real struggle with, who am I? Because I act differently everywhere I go, around every group of people. And so there was no comfort in that and a lot of insecurity, which I think I still see in a lot of the high schoolers that I have. And so maybe it's not just a message for me, but that's definitely what I'd want to get across to myself. And hopefully that would resonate and give me a little bit easier time, help me do some of the maturing that happened later in life a little bit sooner.
Yeah, that resonates with me even today, but I can even remember my high school self. That's something that I would need to hear and would benefit from hearing. So that's great. One of the things, Dean, that's so cool about your job and your proximity with students is that you get to see all of the unique gifts and challenges that young people today have. And I think that through news media or different kinds of articles or reflections that older people have on the current upcoming generation of young people, it's easy to note the differences as either disappointments or as weaknesses, to note the ways in which maybe the upcoming generation of young people is deficient in some way. And certainly every generation has challenges. But from your perspective, from where you're sitting, what are some of the things that you're just really excited about for the upcoming generation of students, upcoming generation of Christians, maybe the way that they are or the opportunities they have, things that you would want to encourage them with?
Well, I think a huge thing is just, and maybe it's just from exposure or just the way that our society is progressing, but the way that these students are so willing to accept others or accept students that maybe aren't as talented at something or aren't as well dressed or can't speak as elegantly. They're, so much more encouraging and, welcoming of those students and willing to be around them. And I know it's different than when I was in high school. And I think the stance against bullying has probably helped that as well. But it's really cool to see how all these different students can be around each other and, with relative peacefulness. And so I think that's a huge thing to see that and to see them be able to connect with people that are different and people, that are the others from how they might feel at home. but still build those relationships.
Well, we're so thankful for your perspective, Dean, and for all the ways that you've helped us just consider life in general, the Christian life. You definitely broadened our perspectives and deepened our perspectives on what high school's like for young people today, and even for you as a teacher, what high school's like. So thanks for taking time to share your perspective with us and giving us a chance to learn from you.
Yeah, it's been fun. Thank
You're
you.
a teacher to us.
Yeah.
Your job's never over.
What grade did we get?
I'll have to make some marks and get back to you.
Wow, weighted grades.
man.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
With a red pen, probably.
Oh gosh, give me
That
a
was
blue
always the
pen, please.
scariest.
Hey guys, we here at Crossing Students hope these videos serve you well. We'll be putting out new videos each week with all kinds of content. So if you have a question about a video or maybe ideas for new videos, make sure to leave those in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks guys.